Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Poor Man's Bonsai. Today I'm going to be taking this Silver Squill plant and this Stonecrop plant and these two sort of miniature bonsai pots, and I'm going to be making some simple kusamonos like this one right here. So I hope you enjoy, and let's see what we could put together. So the first one we're going to work on is this little brown pot here. This is about a $5 or $6 pot. And so this is a very affordable little project. I ended up buying the Silver Squill at a plant sale here in town for just a couple bucks. And then I bought a flat of this Stonecrop here, about this big, at a nursery just yesterday for, I think it was 12 or 15 bucks, somewhere around there. And there will be a lot that I can get out of that. And yeah, so this one here is one that I had started. I had some bulbs of the Silver Squill. I had a different pot of them that was totally getting neglected and all dried out. So I actually saved some of the bulbs and I just stuck them in here. They didn't have any leaves, but I put some sphagnum moss and some soil in here, and they've since sprouted leaves. And I just planted this Stonecrop in here earlier today, so just to kind of see what it would look like. But I think it makes a really nice kind of planting, and both of these are pretty drought tolerant. So that's what my hope is, that they'll go together well. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about kusamono before I get started. Kusamono, it literally means grass thing in Japanese. And so you'll typically see these as sort of a focal point when they're being displayed, where it's, whether it's different grasses or different types of plants or a combination of plants that typically will represent a season or a certain environment. And so I don't know if I'm necessarily representing a certain environment with these, but let's just go with summer, since both of these are drought tolerant. And living in Southern California where I'm at, it just gets really hot. So I always try to go for things that are a little more drought tolerant. But you'll also read, if you do enough reading and kind of look into kusamono, you'll also hear about something called shitakusa, which is very similar, but shitakusa means undergrass. So typically those are displayed next to a bonsai to kind of showcase the bonsai, but sort of add another little bit of character or accent or complement the main bonsai being displayed, whereas kusamono is oftentimes the centerpiece of what you're doing. But I know for me it took a while to sort of realize the difference between the two. But anyway, because for this project we're just displaying these as is and not under a bonsai, at least for now, we'll just call it kusamono. So but anyway, let's get started. So we got two of them here. Let's grab our third one. So yeah, I first bought one of these plants at a nursery several years ago. And in fact, these ones here are from ones that I bought probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And they're super duper hardy. I've neglected them quite a bit, and they still tend to come back. And so when I saw these at a local plant sale, I thought, oh, that's awesome. Didn't even have to go to a specialized nursery for them. And I think we only spent $2 or $3 on this pot, unless it's labeled. Oh, never mind, $1. Wow, talk about poor man's bonsai. That's a great deal. So let's set that aside for now. So we have our three silver squills here, and I'll probably try to display them all with the main leaf facing a different direction. Of course, over time those will fall out, but just for now that'll be cool. And these actually have stalks that come up and produce some really cool flowers. So I think especially in the blooming season, these will look really cool. And really the Stonecrop as well will produce tiny little flowers. So my hope is that this kusamono, like this one here, will have two different levels, sort of this ground cover level that will produce little flowers, and then these taller Silver Squill will produce some taller flowers. So you kind of have multiple dimensions on this. Okay, so set that aside for now. All right, so I've got my soil here, and for my soil mix, what I'm doing is taking sort of my normal bonsai mix, and I'm mixing in quite a bit of potting soil into it so that it retains moisture a lot better, because it's such a small pot that it's going to dry out a lot quicker. And so I just want to be able to retain moisture a lot better. So I'm going to give that a try. And I threw in a decent amount of lava rock, crushed lava rock as well, so that it still drains pretty well. So what we're going to do next is we have our 3 Silver Squill that I'm going to plant in here. So what I've done is I put a little bit of soil at the bottom already. There's a screen in there to keep soil from falling out. I'm going to kind of just position these to where all 3 are sort of pointing in different direction. All three of the main leaves on these. Nothing fancy. I'm not going crazy with this, and because I'm sort of new to these anyway, I'm just experimenting. But I figured put 3 in there in the middle as sort of the centerpiece of the pot, and then what I'll do is I'll plant the stonecrop around it. And I'm not going to go super crazy with the soil, because you'll see in a second the stonecrop has quite a bit of sort of mucky soil that is attached to the roots that I don't want to totally remove, because I think that'll help. If I remove too much, I don't want to compromise it from adjusting to this pot well. So you can see it's real mucky, so I'm going to leave quite a bit of that in there. Yeah, and then I'm just going to start adding this around the base of the 3 silver squills. So, and these aren't going to look amazing at first. You really want kusamonos to, from what I understand, you really want them to look well established, just like a bonsai as well. You want them to look really established so that it looks like sort of a slice of nature. You don't want it to look like somebody slapped it together and it's plants looking all limp and stuff. So my hope is over the next week, as the stonecrop and everything settles in, that it'll all the leaves and all the branches will sort of perk up and it will look a lot cleaner. But yeah, so I'm just sort of kind of pressing the stuff, the muck and the roots in there, and I actually have sort of a new little root poking tool. This is a little crochet hook that my wife didn't need anymore, so it's nice and thin, so I think it's really good for small pot plantings like this. Kind of get the soil nice and deep around the roots and help tuck in the soil on the edge too of the stonecrop. So stonecrop, from what I've read, is just a great ground cover as well. It's drought tolerant and it spreads really well, and it'll even creep up walls and come out between rocks. It's a really pretty plant, and it'll pour over the edge of a pot and really thicken up. So my hope is that this will create a really cool 2-dimensional planting. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Now what I'm going to do is just one more thing. I'm going to take some gravel from the floor, grab a few little rocks as well, and just sort of sprinkle them in here and there to kind of give it that natural look. I mean, it won't look amazing, but that's kind of what I have going on with this, and it seems to look pretty good. My hope is eventually the stonecrop will just cover all of that gravel anyway, but for the time being, I think it will help mask some of the dirt, some of the newness of this planting. So, but I want the plants out on top of the rocks. I don't want the rocks sitting on top of the plants. So that, again, so that they don't look like they're just thrown on there. I want them to look like they're underneath the plants. So finish tucking it in and tuck some of these ones down in there. Add a little bit of bonsai soil to the top. All right, and we have our first one. Pretty simple, you know, take 5 or 10, 15 minutes, and you got a nice little kusamono from a couple different plants, a little pot, and some soils. So let's move on to our second pot. We'll finish that one up, and then we'll show you a display of all 3 of them as they're done. So let's keep on going. All right, and for this last tiny little pot, I think what I'm going to do is just really showcase one single bulb of the silver squill and then surround it with some of the stonecrop. So let's grab from our pack here. And the cool thing about, from my experience of having some of these for a while, the cool thing about the silver squill is that you can already see I'm going to pull some of these dead leaves off, or dying leaves off. So the cool thing about it is you could see that they actually have bulbs that come off very easily. So this one already has at least 3 bulbs already forming that eventually will grow up next to this one and create more silver squill leaves coming out. So eventually, as this one matures, I think that it'll look even more lively as more leaves start sprouting out from those bulbs. So once again, let's take a little bit of our soil. I'm not even going to use a screen on this, the hole is so small. Take a little bit of our soil here, plant the squill. I'm actually going to take my clippers and just cut a little bit of these roots off. Give it some room. Give it some room to grow in this pot. All right. Let's put a little bit more soil. And actually, because this is so small, when I plant my stonecrop, I'm actually not going to add any more soil from my mix. I'm just going to use the soil that's attached to the stonecrop as the remainder of the soil for this thing. So let's get our couple of clumps ready. Wow, look at that earthworm. I don't know, buddy. I feel like you might not make it in this tiny pot, so let's put you in the flat of the rest of the stonecrop. So I'm actually, on this one, I'm going to start with the ground cover and sort of pin the plant in between like that. Ooh, yeah, I like that, how that looks a lot. And I don't think I have any experience actually with this, with the stonecrop. So I don't know if you trim it, if it back buds or spreads, or gets tighter foliage. I'm not sure, but hopefully it'll just sprout tighter foliage as it grows. But, yeah, I don't think I need to add any more. Let me just once again do my little gravel trick. Add a few little rocks here and there. Underneath the stonecrop. Gonna fill it in a bit. This pot is so cute, so darn small that there's really not much to potting it. So there you go. Here's our second for today, our second kusamono, and last one for this video, using the silver squill and the stonecrop. So what I'm going to do now is do a close-up of the 2 that I made and the one that I already had, and show you how the simple, affordable, cheap, quick kusamono can be really fun and be a really cool little display plant. So let's do some close-ups.